Welcome to ENT student for discussion on NEET entrance bits. So first question about these are all about the paranasal sinuses and nose. Sinus which is not present at birth is a maxillary, ethmoidal, frontal and all of the above. What is the answer? Not present at birth. So answer is, you can guess the answer. C. So normally what happens is during birth, after at the time of birth only maxillary and ethmoid sinuses are present. This frontal sinus is not present. So sphenoid sinus develops at 4 years and the frontal sinus develops at 6 years. As you know this, S for S is opposite, F for F is opposite. Okay. So only maxillary and ethmoid sinuses are present that are clinically significant. So you can go for the next question. Most superior sinus in the face. Answer is frontal, ethmoidal, maxillary and sphenoidal sinuses. So what is the answer? Yes, nothing else wrong, no problem. So most superior sinus in the face is frontal sinus. So the answer is correct. So how would you say that frontal sinus is in this region? Okay. As you know, this is a just common sense question. This is the orbit. In between the orbit will be the ethmoidal sinuses and below the orbit will be your maxillary sinuses. Okay. At the level of ethmoids only, behind there will be sphenoid sinuses. So ethmoids will be anterior, middle and posterior ethmoids. Like this you can have. The answer in this will be frontal sinuses. This is the superior most sinus in the face. So most superior sinus is frontal sinus. Most posterior sinus is sphenoid sinus. And the largest sinus is maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is also called as antrum of Highmore. Antrum of Highmore. And the volume of which will be nearly 15 ml. Okay, volume of which will be nearly 15 ml. Most common paranasal sinus involved in fibrous dysplasia. Fibrous dysplasia, what is the most commonest sinus that is involved in the fibrous dysplasia? A maxillary, B frontal, C ethmoid, E D sphenoid. The options for sinuses is very easy. 4 options, 4 will be given. What is the answer here? Any guess? Any guess here about the answer? Yes, you can guess, no problem, no negative marks. So answer is, the answer here is maxillary. Ethmoid is not correct. Maxillary sinus is the answer. So fibrous dysplasia more commonly involved. This is a knowledge based bit. Knowledge based bit. It is maxillary sinus. Ground glass appearance of the maxillary sinus is seen in maxillary sinusitis, carcinoma, polyp and fibrous dysplasia. The hint is there. Already we have discussed this bit. Ground glass appearance. Ground glass appearance, it is just the bone completely looks similar. Okay, that is a ground glass appearance as you can keep. The answer here is sinusitis, you have got fluid levels. Okay, carcinoma, you have got soft tissues. Polyp, you have got polypoidal changes. If calcification is there, calcium can be seen in that. The answer here is, answer is fibrous dysplasia is the answer. As you could see in this picture, this is a OPG. What is this X-ray called? Orthopantomogram. From here to here the X-ray is taken. That is called as orthopantomogram. It is called as OPG. So from here to the panoramic view or panoramic X-ray of the sinuses and mandible, they say. You could see even the vertebrae also here. So it is showing a mixed radiolucent radio-opaque lesion in the right maxillary premolar region. So what is the right side? Maxillary premolar region, mixed radio-opaque and radiolucent region giving a ground glass appearance. So what is ground glass appearance according to that author? It is radiolucent, that is black color, and then radio-opaque, that is white color. So black and white, if it is mixed like this, it can be called as ground glass appearance. Ground glass. What is the ground glass appearance? Black color and white color combined together, it is called as ground glass appearance. So that is seen in maxillary. This is a knowledge based bit. Maxillary fibrous dysplasia. Fibrous dysplasia. Maxillary fibrous dysplasia. Okay. Next, Schuller's view and Last view is for Schuller's view and Last view. Last is lateral oblique, as you know, lateral oblique view. So Schuller's view and Last view is for sphenoid sinus, mastoid air cells, foramen ovale and spinosum, carotid canal. Foramen ovale and spinosum, carotid canal. So what is that? mastoid hair cells. Correct answer. So answer is mastoid hair cells. So mastoid hair cells, you go for a Schuller's view and last view. So what are these actually? Last view is the lateral view of the mastoid. So they call, you can just remember lateral oblique view. So Telugu medium style, you remember A, oblique view. Lateral oblique view is lateral oblique view. So is the one law who described about this mastoid bone. So sagittal plane of the skull is parallel to the film. Yes or no? This is the sagittal plane of the skull and this is the film where you place and these are the rays that they come. Okay. Sagittal plane is parallel to the film. X-ray is projected at what angle? 15 degrees angle. So this is the sagittal plane of the skull which is parallel to the film. This is X-ray film as you could remember over here. Same thing is depicted in the picture. So for Schuller's view, this is the Schuller's view which you are seeing here for mastoid bone. So this is the radiographic plate. This is X-ray wherein this bone is being recorded from here to here. This particular things will these rays will go at an angle of 30 degrees to the vertical. 30 degrees to the vertical. That is what is called as Schuller's view. So what do you see in a mastoid X-ray normally? You see in the mastoid X-ray about the external artery canal, about the pneumatization of the mastoid hair cells, and this is the dural plate what they say, and this is the sinus plate. Okay, so here will be your sigmoid sinus, here will be the middle cranial fossa dura. Yesterday we were drilling three triangular plane, is it or not? So superiorly will be the middle cranial fossa dura plate, posteriorly will be the sigmoid sinus plate, and this is the external artery canal. This is the external artery canal. So you see the pneumatization of the air cells that are there. Pneumatization of the air cells that are there all over the Schuller's view. So whether it is sclerosed or not, you can say that is it is whitish like a bone. Sclerosed, it is whitish like a bone. Okay, and then otherwise whether it is pneumatized. Okay, whether it is pneumatized is air cells that will be seen as black color. Okay, there is one more terminology called as pseudosclerosis. These terminologies all are related to your X-ray mastoid. These are all related to your X-ray mastoid. You should keep it in your mind. So based on this only, whether mastoid drilling is done or not, you will decide. Mastoid drilling has to be done or not, we will decide according to this X-ray mastoid drilling has to be done or not. But because nowadays HRCT temporal bone is being done, you are not going to go for Schuller's view X-ray, not very common. So it is rarely done nowadays. But if a CT scan is not available, you can go for Schuller's view X-ray once again. Next question. Most common sites for osteomas among the paranasal sinuses is? Osteomas among the paranasal sinuses. Maxillary, frontal, ethmoidal, sphenoidal. Any guess? Wild guess? The answer is frontal sinus osteoma. Frontal sinus is most common. You have to listen this word. Frontal sinus osteoma is very common, as you could see in this picture. So frontal sinus, this is also knowledge based bit. Frontal sinus osteoma. This frontal sinus osteoma. So osteomas, as you know, are tumors of the bone. This is a frontal sinus osteoma. But this is also very rare. So common in the case of frontal sinus, rare as it is concerned. Why? Because it is rare. Why it is rare? Because malignant tumors are more common in the PNS. In PNS, what tumors are more common? Malignant are more common than benign. Okay, malignant are more common than benign. So malignant are more common in number 1 maxillary sinus, number 2 is the nasal cavity. Rest all follow. Okay, most common in the maxillary sinus, number 2 in the nasal cavity. Rest all follow. Next question. People working in wood industry are exposed to increased risk of sarcoma, squamous cell carcinoma, osteoma, adenocarcinoma. Woodworking industry. The answer is adenocarcinoma. So very important. The answer is adenocarcinoma. So you have to keep it in mind. You have to keep it in mind about the adenocarcinoma of the PNS. So wood industry especially, what they say is hardwood and softwood. Hard and softwood. So these are all there in the woods, especially hardwood and softwood. Hardwood causes adenocarcinoma. Softwood causes squamous cell carcinoma. They say like that. Okay. You should keep it in mind. Next question is, adenocarcinoma of the PNS. You should keep it in your mind. So this would related to ethmoids. Okay. So adenocarcinoma of the ethmoids is related to this. You should keep it in mind. Okay. Adenocarcinoma of the paranasal sinuses is more common in people working in hardwood furniture industry. So adenocarcinoma in hardwood furniture industry. Squamous cell carcinoma is related to nickel refining industry. Okay, nickel industry, it is related to squamous cell carcinoma. So softwood also related to squamous cell carcinoma. Okay, but what about the most common histological variety of this carcinoma? Histological variety is squamous cell carcinoma. When they say wood industry, you should say adenocarcinoma, especially it means that it is ethmoid carcinoma. Okay, so adenocarcinoma is very important, especially in ethmoids. But when they say nickel industry, you can say it is squamous cell carcinoma. And once again, commonest variety, if they say the question is, then it is squamous cell carcinoma. So we tend to go by squamous cell carcinoma as the commonest variety, but wood industry it is not correct. Next, orbital cellulitis most commonly occurs in which sinus infection? Orbital cellulitis occurs most commonly in which sinus infection? Loudly. Maxillary, frontal, ethmoidal, sphenoidal. Which one? Maxillary is the wrong answer. Where is orbit? Orbit is lateral to what sinuses? Frontal is here. Orbit is lateral to what sinuses? Keep it in mind about that. So answer is ethmoidal sinuses. Orbital cellulitis is most commonly occurring in ethmoidal sinuses. Yes or no? Yes. So orbital cellulitis. So here are the ethmoid sinuses. So therefore it spreads very easily. Frontal is here. It is very difficult. Ethmoid is very thin plate called as, what is the thin plate separating the ethmoid and the orbit? Is called as lamina papyracea. So lamina papyracea, the thin bone that is separating the orbit and the ethmoids. Therefore it spreads very easily. Okay. So ethmoid causes orbital cellulitis. Mucocele is common in which of the following sinuses? Mucocele, frontal, maxillary, ethmoidal, sphenoidal. So once again, drainage pattern. What is mucocele? Sterile fluid collection. Okay, sterile fluid collection. Which of the sinuses get obstructed very easily? If it is maxillary, or if it is ethmoid, or it is sphenoid? The answer is frontal sinus. Once again. So osteomas are more common in frontal sinus. Mucoceles are also more common in frontal sinus. Okay, got the point. Osteomas and mucoceles are also more common in frontal sinus. So you can see a picture here. So because the frontal sinus drains like this is a duct, if it gets obstructed, the fluid gets collected here. Okay, that is called as frontal sinus mucocele. This is very important. Which of the following attains adult size before birth? Mastodentrum, orbit, ossicles, cornea. Mastodentrum, orbit, ossicles and cornea. Adult size before birth. The answer is yes, correct. Here ossicles. Why? Because ossicles are of the same size as the adult. But whereas mastodentrum, it grows till the level of 2 years. Okay. So normally mastodentrum and facial nerve are like this. So it keeps on growing and buries the facial nerve down. Okay. So that is why in child you have to give incision in the ear. If you are doing ear surgery, you have to give incision far away. Why? Because you will damage the facial nerve. So mastoid grows and grows and grows. It buries the facial nerve in adults. Okay. The child, you will damage the facial nerve. That's why when you are doing ear surgery incision, if this is a ear, you have to give ear incision a bit backwards. Okay, that you should keep it in mind. By 6th week of gestation, ossicles reach the adult size. So by 6 weeks within the embryo itself, ossicles reach the adult size. The mastoid bone, including the mastoid process, almost adult size at the time of birth, but it keeps on growing. Till the first 2 years of life, the mastoid hair cell development is still going on. Okay, the mastoid keeps on growing, but ossicles are of same size. At what time? 6 weeks of gestation, within the embryological period itself, they are of adult size. Next question, mucormycosis of the paranasal sinuses is most common in HIV, diabetes, immunosuppressants, post-surgical. Mucormycosis. Mucormycosis is most dangerous disease in what patients? In what patients? Most immunocompromised among these are, the answer is diabetes. Okay, they are also more common, but diabetes is the most common. This is a knowledge based quiz. Once again, you should know that mucormycosis. So it's a dangerous fungi. It affects it damages the bones and spreads to the brain directly. Okay, so you could see how blackish eschar is formed. So eschar is formed, and these are all the organisms that you could see. Mucor. Okay, Aspergillus rhizopus mucor is there, no? The same organism. This one, the mucor. So what is this actually? In the right orbit, as you could see, in the periorbital skin and maxillary sinuses of a 60-year-old with diabetic ketoacidosis. Very important. Mucormycosis is seen in diabetes mellitus, especially complicated diabetes mellitus like diabetes ketoacidosis. So these are all a bit of knowledge-based questions. A gamma globulinemia is can present with rhinitis, bronchiectasis, giardia infections. Rhinitis, bronchiectasis and giardia infections. The answer is all of the above. So A gamma globulinemia can be associated with any of these things. So this is a microbiology related bit wherein rhinitis is there, that's why placed in ENT. Functional endoscopic sinus surgery opening is made through. Functional endoscopic sinus surgery opening is made through sphenoethmoidal recess, osteomeatal complex, inferior terminate, middle terminate. The answer is yes, osteomeatal complex is the right answer. OMC. Remember, OMC, Piccadilly circle. It is called as Piccadilly circle. So the target of functional endoscopic sinus surgery is to remove the pathology of what? OMC. The pathological process of this OMC. This is called as Piccadilly circle. Sorry. And it maintains the normal ventilation and drainage of the sinuses. It maintains the normal ventilation and the drainage is established. Next, functional endoscopic sinus surgery. So what is the concept of functional endoscopic sinus surgery? It uses the techniques which help in the natural drainage patterns. So there are two people, Stamberger and Messer-Klinger. You could see the picture there. So Messer-Klinger technique, Stamberger technique. So they remove the narrow spaces and then they help in the ventilation so that the sinuses are ventilated. Where is it done? For your level, it should be done at the level of osteomeatal complex. So he was the one, Hirschman was the first one to attempt the endoscopic sinus surgery with the help of a cystoscope. So Richard performed the endoscopic surgery with a 7 mm endoscope. So Hirschman, Richard, the principle is enlarge the tight passages of the osteomeatal complex. For your level, what should you be knowing? The osteomeatal complex is widened and you will enlarge the frontal sinus also separately, and conservation of normal nasal and sinus mucosa. So nasal and sinus mucosa are conserved. Don't damage the mucosa, remove the unnecessary bones. That is called as FES. Okay. Indication. What is the indication for FES? There is nothing like absolute indication. You can go for chronic sinusitis which is not treated for medicine. Mucosis, which you have seen already, more common in frontal sinus. Polyposis and pituitary adenoma, which we are going to see in your chapter. CSF leak repair. You put a graft on the cribriform plate to repair the CSF, and foreign body removal. All are indications of FES. Contraindications. So if osteomeatal complex is normal, you need not go for surgery. So diseases of the lateral part of the frontal sinus are difficult to treat, and osteomyelitis of the frontal bone is not treated by FES. Meningitis or intracranial complications of frontal sinus, you cannot treat it with this. And malignancies sometimes doubtful. Some malignancies which are early stages you can remove with endoscopic sinus surgery. Okay. Next, most feared complication of endoscopic sinus surgery is retroorbital hematoma, CSF rhinorrhea, internal carotid artery injury, nasolacrimal duct injury. Answer is internal carotid artery. For your level, it is difficult to understand. Internal carotid artery is nearer to the orbit, is it or not? So orbital contents are also there, and then sphenoid sinus, internal carotid artery is one of the boundaries, is it or not? So you most dreadful and feared complication. Hematoma you can manage, this one you can manage, but internal carotid artery rupture, it leads to hemorrhage into the brain. So internal carotid artery during endonasal surgery is the most feared and catastrophic complication. So you should remember that point. Orbital complications are also feared, but they can be manageable. Whereas ICA bleeding is the most feared one, single complication in sinus surgery. Internal keratosis, if it bleeds, patient dies. Okay, most common. Retroorbital hemorrhage is one of the most feared. This is also there, but most feared after ICA bleed. First one is ICA, second one is orbit. Okay, this is most commonly feared. In FES surgery, structure which is preserved is ethmoid sinus, sphenoid sinus, maxillary sinus, none. The answer is maxillary sinus is the correct answer. So you won't remove the maxillary sinus, you remove only the uncinate process. Okay, is it or not? Frontal sinus opening you will widen, frontal sinusotomy, ethmoid sinus, ethmoidectomy you will do, sphenoid sinus, sphenoidotomy you do. Maxillary sinus, only the opening of this, which is called as uncinate process, is removed, and you can call it as middle meatal antrostomy. So what are the types of endoscopic sinus surgery as we know here? Type 1, this is not a very much important, but people say sometimes classified. Type 1 is uncinectomy with or without Egger nasi, plus or minus Egger nasi. Egger nasi is the prolongation of the middle turbinate. Type 2 is uncinectomy plus bulla ethmoidalis, that is the anteromost ethmoid, and remove of sinus lateralis and exposure of frontal visa. Type 2 itself is you are going for frontal sinus surgery. Type 3 is type 2 plus maxillary sinus antrostomy through natural ostium. Type 3 plus complete posterior ethmoidectomy, if you are removing ethmoids, it is type 4. And type 5 is 4 plus sphenoidectomy and stippling of mucous membrane. So these are all types that are only just arbitrarily mentioned. Next, Cardwell's view, Lux view, Waters view. What are the views that are helpful for sinuses? Answer is Waters view is the correct answer. Waters view, as you could see, occipito-mental view. Occipito-mental view. With open mouth, it is called as Pierce view. Open mouth, it is called as Pierce view. Okay. So you can have Waters view like this, like sagittal. This is a suture that you could see. This is a frontal sinus. Okay. This is a septum that you could see. This is a maxillary sinus. This is the orbit. You have to compare with the orbit of the pneumatization. If it is similar, then it is okay. If it is darker or whitish color, then there is some problem. Cribriform plate you could see. Ethmoid sinuses you could see, all those things, nasal septum, petrous ridge, all these things are there, but more commonly occipito-mental view is called as Waters view. So except sphenoid sinus,